Greetings, friends, and welcome back. Today we're taking a look at Wexler Music Company Wabash brand of guitar picks. We're going to be looking at two boards, a total of 75 picks, at least 8 different shapes. The logos go from the late 1950s into the mid-70s. There's over a dozen different colors and tortoise patterns. And a lot going on here. I say that with every video. That's simply because there's some information to be talked about. Now, first of all, the Wexler Company was located in Chicago for the longest time. They're currently in Arizona. But when these were produced, they were in Chicago. And interestingly, their address was 823 South Wabash Avenue. Obviously, no coincidence there. Where they decided to get their own brand of picks names from the actual street that their business was located on. So go right into the board. We're going to look at the center here, because this is where the oldest picks are. And probably the oldest on the board are this one, and this one here with the very faded logo. Reason for that, obvious. This is a very rare DeAndrea 368.5. Now, DeAndrea, I've talked about so much in these videos, was the pick company that quietly produced millions upon millions of picks for different companies. Always stayed in the background, never promoted themselves, although they did have their own line of picks with their name. They were not produced in great numbers. However, they produced far more picks for other people. So this was their shape, 368.5. It could be seen in the 1940s catalog, obviously continued to be used here, I believe, the late 1950s, no later than the early 1960s. Same with this wheat straw here logo. You can't see very well because the background's white. And I usually don't keep picks that are this deteriorated. But here's a blueprint Wabash. And on the back, it lived life previously with a cork ring on it. Now, when you find picks missing a cork ring, if you could see the outline and you know the exact specs of the previous cork ring, there's no problem having one manufactured and placed on there. Just note that in your collection and have that set aside so the viewer knows that it's still a real pick, authentic cork with respect to its dimensions, but it is a replacement cork. Continuing with some of these shapes here, very rare 353 shape here. We got the 352, 360, very large mandolin, the 355, and the 346 right here. Very rare group of tortoise style celluloid Wabash picks. And moving up here to the upper left, we see 3 really nice green satin type picks. And they're all green satin type, but different degrees of gold in there. And they're all different in appearance, and that's why I kept them. And as you know by now, I will keep seeming duplicates. If there's variations, like this has a wide-banded copper here, and it's a very narrow-banded copper striations here. So we're going to move over to the right side here. And we could see a few picks now have gauge markings on. Most Wabash picks did not have gauge markings, but some did. And really nice striped variations here, both two-tone blue and two-tone purple. Some more tortoise, 2 with gauge markings, 1 with not. And then a nice purple swirl here, a deep gray satin here. And moving down here at the bottom, we have some white picks. And the reason I've kept these separate white picks is these two are more similar in color, in depths of color, and so are these two. And this white one here is what we call a milk dud color. And I have no thin or medium for that. So I'm saving all those variations of white ones with hope that in the future, if others were made in other gauges, they'll come by too. Now, you can see here these don't stand that well against either the white or the black background, but I'm going to move them so you can see here. And what we actually have showing up now is a clear celluloid right there, a faded blue, a light orange, and a light tangerine color. Now this light blue is actually related to this pick over here, which we'll talk about. That was the pick Tony DeAndrea mentioned. They made for Wabash out of the Fairchild Camera Company's celluloid. That was surplus reconnaissance celluloid used in military aircraft to take pictures. And we can clearly see that because it does have the faded edges here and some of the blue coating from the celluloid that was used for photography is faded. Later, when that supply ran out, they started using celluloid of a deeper color, such as these, and then this is actually PVC here. You might make note of the STD, which is just simply stands for standard, as in standard shape 351. Gauge marking on this one, none on here. And here's a very rare jazz shape 358.5 Wabash, and that clear blue type celluloid that we see here. So this would be a very rare pick, and actually they're all rare. It's just varying degrees of rarity. But one of or in fact the first model of blue Wabash pick produced. Now going down here to the bottom of these four here, I don't know what to make of them. Clearly not something DeAndrea would have been producing. I've never seen them use that material or that print style. In addition, this is not celluloid. None of these are celluloid. 3 with black print. This one here has gold print. All crude in construction. No beveling on the edges. A little smearing on the print. But that gives them a certain aura of their own, obviously distinct from the DeAndrea made picks. And this could have been one of their first runs of picks they attempted to have made before switching over to DeAndrea to make their celluloid picks. But that's unconfirmed. Stay with me now, because now we're going to take a look at the gorgeous mosaics. And there we have them. Various styles of mosaics here. Let me turn one of these lights off, see if I could get a greater depth of color in there by doing so. I think so. So at the top here, this top row here, and these picks in here are what I call the second generation crayon mosaics. They're not the French mosaics from the 1930s, also referred to crayons. But these came later in the late 50s, in the 1960s. Really nice, deep colors to them. Not too many translucent colors there as we have down here, and much less, if any, mother of pearl at all. Such as these down here, these all have mother of pearl. And then we have the pinkies down here, as you could see, predominantly pink. And then others with no pink at all. This group of 6 here having gauge markings on them. But you could see it. I've kept contrasting mosaics. It's a good idea if you have 3 and 2 are alike, that you would want to keep the 2 that are dissimilar in color for contrast in appearance. And we'll just give a little example of that. I'll grab 3 out of here that have a very striking contrast in appearance, such as these 3. And you can see that right there. Very dissimilar in appearance, in color composition. One other note I want to make about the Wabash. I'll see if I get a good example here. Looks like this one. If you look at the W, my camera focus, and you look at the W at the left side, there is an 8th note right here. An 8th note. And it's a very small detail that could be easily missed. So I happened to print out their trademark when they had their trademark done, and you could see that 8th note much more distinctly there. So Wabash, a really great pick. Made by Wexler Musical Distribution Company. There are companies that devise instruments and accessories directly from the factories and then sells them to retail outlets. And this is all part of our wholesale series, companies that were wholesalers that had their own pick brands. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you for now. Joe Macy, Play More Guitar Picks. Reach me at finepick7@yahoo.com. Take care.